the predator and the prey. Welcome to this edition of De Vos Education. I am Tanya De Vos and let's learn. Autotrophs stores chemical energy in the form of carbohydrate molecules which they produce through photosynthesis using the energy of the sun. Heterotrophs can be classified by what they usually eat into herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, or decomposers. The flow of energy between two organisms, where the prey will lose energy and the predator gain energy, is known as predation. Individual organisms in a community interact in many different ways. An interaction may benefit both individuals or just one of the organisms to the detriment of the other. When it benefits one organism but to the detriment of the other organism, we call this an antagonistic interaction. Predation, herbivory, and parasitism are specific types of antagonistic interactions. Organisms that eat the producers are called the primary consumers. They tend to be small in size and there are usually many of them. The primary consumers are herbivores or vegetarians. The organisms that eat the primary consumers are meat eaters or carnivores. They are called the secondary consumers. The secondary consumers usually tend to be larger and much fewer in number than the primary consumers. Unlike prey animals, a predator's eyes are placed towards the front of their head, giving them a three-dimensional binocular vision. Eyes placed in the front may give predators a more limited view of the world around them, but it does make it easier to judge distance and see small details from further away. In addition to binocular vision, hunting animals also have big eyes. This helps them pick up light signals easily and they are therefore able to spot quick movements. Prey animals need all-around vision to see advancing predators. Therefore, their eyes are located on the sides of their head, which gives them a wide field of vision. They are able to look in either direction and are sensitive to the slightest movement. Most predatory animals have very strong jaws, which enable them to hold onto their prey as well as crush through the meat and bone. Their jaws also move up and down, which enables them to cut through the flesh. The jaws of herbivores move from side to side, helping them to grind the food they're eating. All animals have teeth that are adapted to eat certain types of food. For instance, herbivores, because they are plant eaters, have strong and flat molars that are made for grinding leaves and small or non-existent canine teeth. Carnivores, the meat eaters of the world, have very defined canine teeth for tearing at the meat, and this is combined with sometimes a few molars. Omnivores, because they eat both meat and plants, have a combination of sharp front teeth and molars for grinding. In a pride, lionesses indeed do the majority of hunting. Lions, on the other hand, have a well-known reputation of just lying around in the shade. When it is the lionesses that hunt, stalking is the name of the game. The lioness will stay hidden as long as possible, slinking along on her belly when necessary, staying hidden in the grass, which is often the same color as her fur, in order to get as close as possible to the prey. When she finally gets noticed, it's a mad sprint to the prey. Many animals live in groups or herds, which means that there are more eyes and ears to look out for predators. If one senses danger, the entire group is alerted and can run for safety or dive into a protective shelter. Living in groups means animals can feed without constantly having to watch for predators. In a group, they can take turns watching for approaching predators while the rest of the group can feed. Staying together also makes it more confusing for the predator. It makes it difficult to focus on and attack only one animal. Usually the animal that wanders away from the group is the one that gets caught. It seems that the prey evolved the swarming behavior to cause a predator to be confused. We can also see that swarming allows groups of animals to accomplish tasks that they could not do alone, including defending themselves from larger predators. If you bite it and you die, it's a poison. Poisons is secreted, making ingestion or touch a requirement for the poisonous consequences. This is why people are said to get food poisoning and not food venoming. If it bites you and you die, it's a venom. Both poison and venom are toxins, because a toxin simply describes a biologically produced chemical that alters the normal functioning of another organism. Herds of 3 or more giraffes spend hours browsing in acacia thickets. They don't have it all their way, however. The acacia tree has developed some nasty thorns. In the natural arms race, the giraffe has developed a countermeasure to these thorns. A giraffe's tongue can be up to 45 centimeters in length and highly prehensile. This allows the animal to successfully negotiate the bigger thorns and pull the leaves right off the branch. This is why the acacia tree then had to come up with Plan B. The release of tannins. Besides tasting awful, tannins inhibit the digestion by interfering with protein and digestive enzymes and binding to consumed plant proteins, making them even more difficult to digest. What's even more amazing is that acacia trees within 50 yards react to the release of the tannin by their neighbor and jump on the bandwagon by emitting their own. This simultaneous tannin release by all the nearby acacias essentially leads to the giraffes having to find a new hunting ground. Camouflage is an adaptation in which a species evolves to resemble its background. It is the technique used by many animals of resembling and blending in with their surroundings. It's a kind of coloring, body shape and or behavior which animals use to confuse, distract, startle or hide from predators. It's actually used in both sides of the battle of survival. Prey animals use camouflage to remain undetected by their predators, while predators use camouflage to sneak up unseen by their prey. Mimicry is when one organism looks like another organism. In Mullerian mimicry, the mimic resembles a model that is equally poisonous or distasteful, like the viceroy butterfly that mimics the monarch butterfly. In Batesian mimicry, the mimic resembles a model that is poisonous or unpleasant to eat, like the Philippine cockroach resembling the noxious ladybug. And in self-mimicry, we get a phenomena like eye spots, where the mimicry of body parts like eyes and antennae is used to confuse predators. In this case, the prey acts as the mimic and the predator is duped. In aggressive mimicry, Wasmanian mimicry and Packian mimicry, it is the predator that dupes the prey. In aggressive mimicry, the predator and the parasite share similar signals, like the female firefly's mating calls or flashes with her lights that draws in a different species of firefly, and then the female gets to eat the males of the other species. In Wasmanian mimicry, the mimic resembles its host, and that allows them to live in the nest or structure. There are many different kinds of ant-loving beetles that uses Wasmanian mimicry in order to live in the ants' nests. In Packian mimicry, it's also a very aggressive form of mimicry, where the predator mimics the food source or the mating call of the prey. For instance, the snapping turtle, which has a tongue that looks like a worm, which then is used to catch more prey. In this life dinner principle, there is an evolutionary arm race for the species to survive. The prey experience a very strong selective pressure to become better adapted to avoid being eaten. At the same time, predators must capture sufficient food to survive and reproduce, so they must also have selective pressure for traits that allow them to become better hunters. Over time, this arms race leads to traits that enable both prey to avoid being captured and predators to become better hunters.